What's up YouTube? So today I want to show you a really cool trick for creating super snappy sidechains the traditional way. So obviously LFO tool exists and it's really nice for creating stuff like for baseline sidechains and that kind of thing. However, in the mixing context, we don't always want that sidechain to be triggered, and having to automate LFO tool on and off is a bit of a pain in the butt. So often we still end up using stuff like sidechain on compressors on our groups and stuff like that just to get a slightly tighter mix. However, often we're at the mercy of the envelope of our kick. So I want to show you a really cool trick to process the kick in an interesting way so that we can get a much tighter sidechain. Let's dive in and have a look. So in this video, I'm not going to really do much audio examples. I'm going to show you basically what's going on the oscilloscope. So I'm just going to assume that most of you guys already know about what an oscilloscope is and how it represents the sound. But just for a quick example of what I'm talking about in today's video, here I've got a kick drum and I've got a sample of white noise. And on the white noise channel, I've got a compressor that's being sidechained by this kick sample. And look what happens when we enable this sidechain. So notice how it's kind of only starts to kick in at the end of the cycle of the kick drum. So in stuff like dance music where we have very heavy kick drums, this leaves very little space for the rest of the sounds to exist in the mix. And we don't necessarily always want that. We might only want to trigger it from the transient of the kick. And yes, you have certain like release and hold and attack parameters on your compression, and you won't always be doing it this extreme. Just do bear in mind that this is an example. But that being said, you're still at the mercy of the envelope of your kick drum, and you don't necessarily want to change the sound of your kick drum so that the sidechains sound better. But at the end of the day, some processing can still help to fine-tune that sidechain, but we just don't do it on the actual audible kick channel. Let me show you a little trick. So here I'm just going to minimize this real quick and minimize this real quick. So what I want to do is I want to send so obviously there is another way of doing this by triggering sidechains via MIDI, but the problem with doing that is then you've got to duplicate the track and make sure that every kick that's being triggered in the project is on that MIDI channel and stuff, and sometimes you miss them and it's a bit of a pain. Anyway, I want to show you this really cool trick. So on this kick channel, I want to set up a send. So let's go add effects channel to send to, and here let's just call this click isolate. And this should already give you a slightly better idea of what we're doing today. So let's just create that. So on this channel, we actually want to turn the volume down because we don't actually want to hear the isolated kick sound that we're creating. We want to actually hear the main kick sound, which is on this group over here. On this click isolate channel, what we can do is I'm just going to add an oscillos megascope so you guys can see what's going on. And here I want to add an instance of Snap Heap. The reason being is we can do all of this processing inside a single kind of Snap Heap preset, and then save it and then just recall it later on in different projects. So we don't have to have a whole like line of different things to process the things. It's all done in a single instance of a plugin, which is really handy. So for this, what we're going to end up using is transient shaper, gate. We can actually maybe use this first. Reason I'm using the gate instead of the dynamics is this has a look ahead algorithm, and that just makes the envelopes of this a little bit snappier than the envelopes of the dynamics snap in. Just keep that in mind. So here also what I want to do is just open up this oscillos megascope again, and now we can actually see what we're doing. You see click isolate. So as we process this, we can see what we're doing to the sound. So check out what happens when we gate the sound. So what gating is doing is it's removing the sound that's below a certain point, right? So you can use this to isolate just a single kind of part of a sound. For example, if the transient of your kick is slightly higher than the rest of the kick, you can use it to just isolate that. So it's pretty handy to do that. And check here how, like I said, the envelopes are a lot snappier here than the dynamics because of this look ahead mode. Yeah, if we use the transient shaper before, set the speed up all the way, and turn the pump up, and turn the sustain down, you can get it even more snappier, right? And so then here, let's just fine tune this a little bit by turning the hold down. You can see we're getting it like all the way down to like it's just that first little hit of the sound. we can take this further. We can then, stack this up again with another transient shaper to boost up the attack here. In fact, I don't think we can get any shorter than that. I think that's about as short as the processing is going to allow us to go. We can do like another gate. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get any shorter than that. So now what we can do is we can just gain this up till it's like right at the top of the peak. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as click isolate. So now we've always got the snap in preset. We can always recall it at a later stage if we need. Right, okay, so moving on back to the example. Let's go and add a compressor to our noise channel, just back for the example. And what I want to do here is I want to add side channel source, use click isolate. So the trick here is to click this little button, pre-post fader. So what this does is it takes the source from before the volume. Because we've turned the volume down, if it's post fader, it's not going to send anything to this sidechain. So notice here how it's already a lot snappier compared to the other compressor. Let me actually pull them up and we can just quickly jump between the two and have a look at what the difference is between them. I'm going to bypass and then enable. You see how much space that we've got that we've kind of carved out there using the traditional method without the processing, and we're losing that information. That's music that's being kind of carved out of the mix. Whereas if we do it this way, we can still then go and fine tune the release and get the hold a little bit more fine tuned. So we've got a lot more wiggle room to kind of fine tune those mixing parameters. So I find doing it the traditional way without the pre-processing, without the click isolate channel, you almost have no space to work with the release parameters and the hold parameters. Obviously bearing in mind that like we generally do make a faster tempo of music, and often these compressors and these things aren't really designed specifically for really fast dance music. But that being said, this is a way around it, is to really just carve out that transient of the sound and use that to trigger your sidechain compressors. So let me show you a quick audio example just to make things a little bit more apparent as to what's going on for you guys. For those who really don't hear, who don't understand visually and want a more audio example, this is the difference. Do you see what I mean by how you've got more wiggle room to play with, where you can kind of fine tune that parameter so it kind of really grooves with the mix? I mean, even just with the noise and a kick sample here, kind of like you can hear that groove developing from the sidechain. Whereas, like I said, when you do that just with a traditional sound and there's not enough processing on it, often you're at the mercy of the envelope of the kick. And then what we do is we kind of like process that kick, but then it doesn't sound as good. So, isolating it onto its own channel to do that processing is really the pro trick. Awesome, that's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then please consider hitting that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. I'm going to upload this click isolate preset to my Patreons for my $5 supporters. So if you want to know what that's all about, check out the link in the description. Yeah, I think that's about everything. See you guys next time. Cheers.